In this 100 Days adventure, I'll be playing Ark Survival Evolved, a game where you have to survive on an island full of dinosaurs starting with nothing but your undies. Aside from the dinosaurs, I'll also be playing with 10 other YouTubers on the Monarky SMP, and we're all gonna be neighbors. Day 1 started with us all gathering up to decide on base spots with Vino's handy-dandy spin wheel. The base spots went one by one until it was just me and Raz Clark left on the board, and my name was finally called for this nice little spot on the coast. That left Raz Clark with the last spot, and then it was time for us all to go our separate ways. I tried to follow Miss Fatums carefully off the ledge, but as we made our way down, Raz Clark was already up to some mischief as he punched her right off the ledge.
Thank you, that'd be great.
No!
No, that was not nice.
I punched him a couple times as I told him my thoughts, then made my way off the rock and headed into the trees. On the other side of the trees, I ran into Kaya.
Hello!
Hello.
Before heading across the water to find my base spot. There were even more people on this side of the water, but when Raz Clark started looking for hide, I decided to head on up the beach.
Got any hide for me? Ah! Wait, got any hides on you?
I killed this dodo for some hide of my own after that. Then, once I made it to my spot, I started collecting some berries when I heard Bay making his way down the beach.
Trees, slap those bushes, slap those rocks, and get yourself some spears. That's what I...
Made myself a campfire and started some dodo meat for dinner next, but apparently I wasn't the only one hungry.
Oh, who's made a campfire? Can I use it? Oh, Solo, thanks. Oh, thanks for the cut meat.
I caught him red-handed, but instead of making any trouble, I offered him a trade.
Yeah, go on then.
Some of my cooked meat for his Santa hat. Might be one of the best trades I've ever made.
I'm trespassing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, get out of here. Yeah. After that, I made myself this little temporary thatch base on the beach, and then tamed my first dino by knocking out this dodo and feeding it some berries. I knocked out this little Dilophosaur too, and then took them both back to base when someone else started heading down the beach trying to knock out a trike.
Hello?
Hello. I figured I'd try to help him out, but I think the trike had other plans.
Ah! Oh no!
He made his way back, and I helped him pelt it with rocks until I ran out. Then I was trying to keep it from running in the water when it decided I should go in instead.
Oh no.
Oh!
Oh, it's out. It's out.
I ended up finding my own to tame later that evening, knocked her out with my club, and named her Trisha before heading home for the night. I started off day 2 bright and early by heading up on this cliff right in the center of my property. I spent most of the day building this little thatch frame and then making trips down to the beach for water. It was also a pretty common occurrence for the other YouTubers to wander by talking to themselves.
Alright, we are off going back home.
Right, I think it would be wise to get some dodos.
After building and rebuilding several times, I finally had the base about where I wanted it. Meanwhile, all the other creators were making their bases as well. On this server, we'll each have a special crown vault to defend that generates crowns, so the quicker you can get yours up and defend it, the better. The next day, I tore down my walls and repositioned my base one more time before finally placing my own crown vault. Stopped by Raz Clark's to borrow some crystal to make a spyglass, finished up my box of a base one more time, and then spent the rest of my day gathering wood to replace the bottom row of thatch before calling it a night. The next morning, I woke up to find a hole had been eaten into my base, and Trisha, my Triceratops, was nowhere to be found. Oh well. I had some better gear now, including some bolas and a bow and arrow, so I spent the day out looking for something else to tame. We're playing this season with a level cap each week, so I'm not able to unlock trank arrows just yet, but there is one low-level creature that can help you knock other creatures out, the Packy. I slingshotted this one I found over by Vino's base until finally I knocked it out. Welcome to the club, Bill. Hopefully you'll last longer than Trisha. I spent the next morning testing Bill out. We knocked out one dodo, killed another, and then knocked out this dilo too. When I made it back, I noticed this unfortunate Triceratops stuck in this hole. At first, I thought I'd found Trisha, but turns out it was just a wild one. After that, I decided to unlock the feeding trough engram. In Ark, with each level, you get engram points to spend on crafting recipes. But with our level cap, we would only have a few to spend each week, so I was being really picky with mine. And this turned out to be a great decision. Several of the others had used their points on other items, so I gathered up the stuff and made a few to trade for all sorts of goodies. I got some metal tools and a raft from Kaya, and then these fancy saddles from Bob.
Awesome.
The next morning, I grabbed this green loot drop, and would you looky there, 10 trank arrows. We may not be able to craft them yet, but I guess you can find them in some of these loot drops. Krabby dropped by after that, and I traded one more feeding trough for this large storage box she found in a drop. Then I ended up spending the entire rest of my day trying to tame another Triceratops. This one was a lot higher level, and I gave it everything I had before finally knocking it out later that evening. We're playing on the original Ark Island map, using a couple mods to make it like it was back in 2015 before they updated the dinos. But also like Ark in 2015, some things are a little glitchy. So when my new trike woke up, I named him Larry and we started sliding our way back home. There are also a few interesting places you can get stuck in, like this place Survival Bob put out a few warning signs for. I spent the night gathering materials with Larry and then made these dino gates the next morning. I don't have any crowns to worry about protecting yet, but it should at least keep wild raptors from eating my dinos while I'm logged off. I also tamed another Dilophosaur that day, killed a turtle for its keratin, grabbed a couple green drops, and then met up with ASG that night to trade.
Hello.
This time I got a refining forge and some metal for some of my big dino gates. Put down my new forge the next morning and then ended up spending the rest of the day trying to tame myself a parasaur. I tried to use my packy bill, but the parasaur was just too fast. So I hopped off and gave chase on foot instead. I had to bowl it 3 different times before I could finally knock it out. And then, after all that, I came back later to find it had been eaten by this Dilo. Excuse me, sir, that was not very nice at all. You know what? Maybe I'll just go try to tame a raptor instead. I accidentally killed this first one, but I was more careful with the second, and that night it was tamed. Then I took my new raptor out to try to tame another raptor. I got quite a few shots on this one, but then it got loose and my slingshot broke and I gave up and ended up just killing it. Never mind. Well, at least I got this one. I took him home and named him Ralph, and then spent most of the next morning putting up some extra walls around my crown vault. Tamed a couple more Dilophosaur, and then I had another visitor looking to trade.
Solo!
Hello.
Hello!
I traded a couple gates for an apprentice club and a second forge. Then he made his way back out without using the door.
Oh!
Oh, God. Named my new Dilos after that, and then headed out to meet Miss Vadams for another trade. She's got ramps, and I'd love to have some for building.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Then I ran into Raz again on his Raptor. I'll race you.
Where are you? Hey, let's go! Are you as fast as me?
Almost.
Oh, yeah, there's not much in it.
It was pretty close.
What? What?
Then I made my way up the coast to see if I could find anything good to tame. I found a decent trike, but it got me trapped, and well, that was that. It wouldn't have been so bad if I hadn't forgot to put down a bed on my raft, but now, instead of just spawning back on my raft to grab my stuff, I'll have to try to make it back up the coast with Ralph instead. Luckily, though, I've got neighbors.
I just got a Mastercraft trike BP from that drop.
I lost my raft.
You lost your raft? What did you lose it to? Do you need help?
Yeah. So we headed up the beach on our raptors, but Rasclark had an interesting way of riding his today. We ran into several raptors along the way. They run in packs, but we were able to split them between us to finish them off. If it hadn't been for his help, I think this trip might have been the last one for Ralph. Behind you.
Oh! Oh!
After a couple close calls, we eventually made it, with Rasclark riding sidecar on his raptor the whole time. There's my green beam.
Hey!
We went our separate ways, and then I put down a bed first thing before heading back down the coast. Then I decided to tame a trike a little closer to home this time. It was higher level than Larry, and I ended up naming her Lady. I finished off the day with a trip over to Trader Bob's. Hello there.
Hello. Where you at?
Oh, I'm right here.
Oh, there you are.
Hello. Ended up trading some more gates for some fence foundations and some better quality hide armor. Now that I had some more building pieces, I decided to spend my next day working on my raft. I wanted to turn it into a mobile taming trap like I'd seen some of the others do, so I built part of it open with a big ramp leading inside. Then I made sure to put a bed down along with some storage before calling it a night. Finished it off the next morning with some rails around the top, and added a few on top of my base too. Grabbed this green drop full of stone pipes and more trank arrows. Then went out to see what I could catch with my new raft trap. It wasn't long before I spotted this nice blue carno. I got its attention with a trank arrow and then lured it right into my raft. It worked like a charm, other than the fact the carno started eating it, but I kept shooting anyway, and luckily my raft managed to survive as I knocked it out. While I waited for it to wake up, I knocked out this little red Dimorphodon too. I took them both back to base on my boat to find that someone had been painting my gates. Well, At least it matches my car note. It was finally time for our first event next, but first we met up for a little bit of a boat race.
1, go!
It was Kaya's event, and once we arrived, she split us into teams, and it was time to go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Our main goal was to break into these boxes scattered across the beach and bring the candy cane inside back to our side. I might have got a little confused about which boxes we were breaking into.
No, we break the green ones.
Right. Oh, wait, no, you're right. Sorry.
We break the green.
I thought we broke the green ones as well.
My fault.
How come yours is hitting harder?
I'm better. I am tired, though.
I'll be back, guys.
But once we got that sorted, it wasn't long before we'd broken into the first box. With the others covering me, I took the candy cane back, and then I might have felt a little bit bad about this next part.
Bay,
Yeah.
get him.
We might have took out Dread, but Captain Fat Dog came back for revenge.
Oh, no.
Come on! I saved you so low!
Raz Clark came to the rescue, and then I decided to cause some trouble for the other team.
Stop it. No.
Miss V gets solo, she's being a pest.
Stop being a pest!
Miss V might have ended my fun, but next thing I knew, my whole team was there.
Go, everyone!
Get him!
Push him! Push him in! Push him in!
After all that craziness, me and Vino managed to break into this box.
Nice.
Then I might have accidentally bowled Desperano instead of Captain Fat Dog.
Oh, they're in the front too!
After that, we only had one more candy cane left to go, but Vino accidentally knocked himself out while we were trying to break in.
Knocked myself out.
Oh, no, Cap. No, get away, Cap.
Cap tried to stop us, but it was too late. We grabbed the last candy cane, and my team ended up winning the event that day.
Yeah, we're about...
No, ow. Stop it. Oh, I hit the wrong button, Bay.
We each got a crown from the other team for our prize. Then it was almost Christmas time, so several of us headed over to Kaya's that night for a bit of holiday fun.
Where's the jingle bells?
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin.
That's exactly how I remember it too. We drew names for a Secret Santa game, and I ended up getting my fellow blue-haired neighbor, Kaya, who I'm pretty sure is the one responsible for painting my gates. Then, after all that excitement, I headed home and forgot to put my crowns away. I realized it when I logged back in the next morning and put them in my vault, but when I stepped outside my door, someone was waiting. With the crown mod we're using, when you put a crown on, you can see anyone else who has crowns in their inventory. And when you're carrying a crown, that makes you free game for PvP. So at some point, Raz Clark had noticed I was still carrying mine. And as soon as I logged back in, he was ready to attack.
So sorry. So no.
He knocked me out and checked my inventory, but when he realized I'd already locked up my crowns, he went on his way. And along with the event, our level cap got raised, so now I can unlock some new things. Normally in Ark, to get to the next level, you just have to get enough experience, but to keep us all on the same playing field, we have a level cap that rises 10 each week. This also means it'll be a whole nother week before I can use a flyer. So that day, I rafted over to Kaya's and dropped off a few gifts in her box, then went back to base that night to upgrade to these new stone walls I'd unlocked. On day 15, I logged in for a much better surprise. I checked my mailbox and someone had left all sorts of Secret Santa gifts inside. How do I look in my new sweater? I'd decided to go for a bit of revenge that day, so I made some paint and headed over to Raz Clark's. He had a nice new Giga, and I wanted to give it some Christmas stockings. Though Bob told me later they look like chicken feet, and I have to say I agree. Feeling pretty proud of myself after that, I headed back home and made some more paint. You know what? I think I might just go paint something at everyone's base. I finished up at Dread's last and almost impaled myself as I jumped over his spike walls on my way out. Then, when I got back to base, I made a big mistake. I forgot I had my trike on follow and accidentally let it into this big hole. Oops. Sorry, lady. The next day, I was back to taming things. Started with this green Dilophosaur because I wanted to name him Grinch. Then a couple more raptors for some easy base defense. For obvious reasons, I named this one Raptor Dash. For PvP and base defense, we can only use creatures whose saddles we've unlocked, which means despite the Giga next door, these will actually do just fine. I spent the rest of my day trying to tame this Doedicarus to help me get some stone, but when it was almost done, this Rex ran me off and I had to go back home. The next day, it was time to level up again. This time, our level cap went up to 40, which means I can finally make a Pteranodon saddle. So I spent my whole day killing turtles and gathering keratin to make one. Then, that night, I tamed the first one I could find. I didn't really care what level it was, I was just happy to get off this boat and take to the sky. I've played Ark several times now, but there's still nothing like that first time you get to fly. I spent the next day using my new Pteranodon to find a better Pteranodon. Then, when I made it back, I found I had another gift from my Secret Santa, which it turns out was Bay. He had given me all sorts of awesome things, which made me want to go do a few more things for Kaya. So I introduced my new Pteranodon to each other and then took their first egg over to her box, along with a few other random useful things. I stopped by Bob's later that night to borrow his scissors.
Hello?
Hello. I didn't need a haircut really, just some hair to make myself a nanny. One of my favorite things about Ark is you can make dino babies, but it's also one of the most time consuming. The nanny mod helps a bit with that by more or less babysitting your dinos while they grow up. I'll need a few other things before I can make it, but soon we'll be raising some cute little carnivores. The next morning I found I had some more presents from Bay, if only I could open them. I was pretty tired of having to go down the hill to get water, so I spent most of my day piecing together these stone pipes I'd found. Ah, very refreshing. Now I still need one of these roly-poly Doedicarus to help me gather stone. They're slow and taming them's easy enough, but I'm challenging myself to travel without cryopods, so getting it back to base has been quite the challenge. I tamed this yellow one first, but every time I turned around it was getting eaten, and then it would roll up in a ball and I couldn't move anymore until it would heal. I got so frustrated with this one I ended up just leaving it and taming this Pteranodon instead. Then I found another roly-poly a little closer to home. I knocked it out and then tried to bring my boat around to pick it up. Turns out it wouldn't fit, and then I got distracted by raptor claws for a bit. No, bad raptors, these are my presents. I collected all I could and then flew over instead to pick up my new roly-poly. I struggled just as much as before, and it was getting eaten by everything coming and going. I even ended up leaving it for a little while and took a break to make some Christmas stuff with the presents I'd gotten. Look, now I've got a Christmas tree and a new matching sweater and beanie. After that, I sucked it up and went back to finish the job, finally making it home late that night. I named him Bauble and then ended up spending the next couple of days building all sorts of stone things. I put down an excessive amount of rails, upgraded my foundations and walls, and then spent an entire day building this very frustrating and not so pretty staircase. Oh, and falling. A lot. Excuse me. What do you think you're looking at? Made a trade the next day with Bay. I gave him some pants and he gave me this crossbow. It was also time to level up again, and I'd unlocked some things that would need a lot more metal. Luckily though, I already had an Anki that Bay had given me back when he was my Secret Santa. Did you know they actually swim faster than they run? Well, in Ark anyway. They're also great for gathering metal, and I gathered all the river rocks I could find. While I was at it, I accidentally whacked this turtle in the face, and apparently he had some friends. I finished off the turtle gang and then took all my metal back to stick in the forges. Then Dread had given me these two wolves, so I stuck them out for some extra defenses and named them Pinky and the Brain. Went out to grab some dinner for the dinos that night on my Carno, then ended up spending most of the next day building. I extended my front porch, moved the feeding trough outside, and then decided to build some sort of a trap. Along with some other rules you can find in the description, we were also only allowed to have 2 wooden doors blocking our crown vault, along with up to 10 dinosaurs defending. So I figured putting this little hole here might at least slow them down and give me some time to defend. I built a ladder up the back to a hatch, then completely forgot about it and ran right in the front door anyway. Well, good to know it worked. I was back out on the Carno the next morning. I named her Azula because she's blue, and we killed a bunch of Spinos for their hide. Then I spent my lunch gathering fiber so I could make this new mammoth saddle I'd unlocked. I needed wood to smelt metal and for more building, so maybe a mammoth can help with that. Before I headed out, I knocked out this unlucky Pteranodon that wandered into my base. Then, after it tamed, I headed up north. We'd been playing on the 2015 version of this map, and back then there wasn't any snow. But our server seems to be traveling forward in time time, and different things are getting added in as we go. It didn't take me very long to find a mammoth, but it also didn't take me very long to start freezing to death. While I was trying to knock it out, this wolf came over the hill chasing a deer, till it spotted me and decided I was probably the slower one here. I let it away on my bird and then got back to work. It was a big and slow target and I managed to knock it out pretty easily, but while I was distracted checking other mammoths' levels, some wolves came along and ate it. That's okay, I'd found a better one anyway. Then literally spent the entire next day waiting for it to tame. And it took almost a whole nother day to take her home. She was too big to fit on this bridge Kaya made, or through my gates. Then I learned this older model mammoth doesn't even really gather wood that well. I guess at least it can carry some for me. Spent the rest of that day building another room on top of my base. I had more things now and needed more space. Finished it up with a ladder and some rails, and then parked my birds on top before calling it a night. Now I needed crystal to make myself a fabricator, so I headed back to the snow before the sun even rose to collect it. As I flew back home over Dreads though, I noticed his door was open. So I dropped off the crystal and made that fabricator real quick, before grabbing some paint and heading back to mess around. I was trying to find something fun to paint, but instead I just found this not so friendly wolf. Oh, excuse me there, I'll just make my way out, thanks. Or not. I thought I'd escaped, but Ark got the best of me, and I lagged right back into the wolf's mouth. Enough of that, let's go tame something. I spent the whole night looking for a decent level frog. Never really found one, but tried to trap this level 80 anyway, completely forgetting you can just bolo them. It didn't exactly work out. Thankfully, I'd placed a sleeping bag nearby, but as soon as I got my stuff, I saw this notification. Uh-oh. Bob had put on his crown, and that could only mean one thing. He was going to raid. I dropped everything and flew back to base. Just as expected, there was a strange pteranodon sitting outside my door.
Can I help you?
Yeah. I haven't broken anything yet.
Somehow my door wasn't broken, just open, and Bob was inside, so I snuck in through the back for a little surprise.
You may have to break down this other door. Oh, you sneaky!
I bowled him, he bowled me. It was all good fun until we both fell asleep.
You out? Crap, I'm out too.
He woke up first and tranked me again.
Are you up? Stop it.
But then, as he was taking my stuff, I woke up sooner than expected.
Give me that. And that. Oh god, where'd you
Apparently something glitched though, and now I was invisible. I'm not gonna lie, I was panicking a bit. I was stabbing him as he was trying to shoot me, and I'm pretty sure I killed my own Dilo by mistake.
Oh, I killed my own Dilo.
I did at least manage to kill him too, and then took all his stuff while I waited for him to come back. When he returned, we ended up making a deal. I'd give him his stuff back along with his crown, and he'd show me how he got in my front door. Oh yeah, and not come back with his dino army, which was currently quite a bit better than mine. Turns out he was just able to jump straight out of my little trap, and then he had used this little monkey to open my door.
How did you get the monkey in to unlock the door? Does it have to be inside?
It does not. That's what nobody realizes.
I don't trust you now. Get out.
I gave him all his stuff back, but apparently I got a little bit of it mixed up.
Wait, you gave me your hat and your pants
Oh, give me my hat back.
and your shoes.
Oh, wait, that's because I'm wearing all yours. I look cool in it, though. I like it. I like these sunglasses. I need to get some.
Little did he know, I probably would have traded a crown just for those glasses, but I gave it all back and he went on his way, and even gave me this cute little baby beaver to raise. I guess now I'll have to finally finish up making that nanny. I just need some giant bee honey first. I built up to this one and made a bed nearby, then just gathered as much as I could before I died. Well, I guess that will do for now. I started myself a quick garden that night, then finally made my way back to finish taming that frog. It was a struggle and I still didn't know you could bolo them, but I managed it anyway. While it was taming, I grabbed some more honey, had a false alarm when Vino put on his crown, and hatched this cute little Carno egg Bay had given me. Back at the swamp, my frog was up. I took him home, named him Freddy, and then turned around to go right back to the swamp. I've been making cementing paste in the mortar and pestle with stone and chitin, but frogs can gather it from bugs. Good job, Freddy. Spent most of the next day hunting down Vino, who was playing as a dodo over on his server.
Super dodo.
Then made a couple trades after the event, including a couple very lucky Carno eggs that both gave me twins.
I got twins. I got twins again.
Oh, hey, all right.
Later that day, Bay stopped by.
Oh, hi.
Got some special delivery.
He gave me an excessive amount of armor for a few grappling hooks, so I decided to give him one of my new Carnos too. He hung around while I tested out my new beaver on some trees.
Oh, there you go.
I ended up deciding to name her Betty. Spent the night visiting the penguins for some polymer. Then the morning was all for metal. Might have let my daughter drive while I grabbed some coffee.
One for your life, DC.
Then took all the metal back to put in the forges. Here, Froggy Froggy. Tamed another frog with Ebola this time. And then, would you looky there, capros have been added back in. They'll jump from out of nowhere and snatch you in their jaws. I think this one will look just perfect by my front door. I knocked it out and its buddy came to say hi while I was waiting for it to tame. No thank you, I do not want to get eaten today. Tired of gathering fiber, I headed out the next day to try to tame this Bigfoot. Just as I started feeding it though, I got another crown notification. I made a quick run back to base to make sure it wasn't me that was getting raided. Then, when the coast was all clear, I went back to feeding my new friend. I spent the entire day stalking it and feeding it berries. I suppose crops from my garden would have been better, but I wasn't paying attention and let all of them die. That's okay. Everyone meet Gina the Gigantopithecus. The next day, I decided to drop this frog over at Bay's to hop in. Oh, I did it. I knew I wouldn't be able to get back out, so I just left everything at home and then punched his spikes till I died. Then headed out on Freddy to see if I could find a female frog. I want to make some little froggy babies. It must have been my lucky day. I ended up finding a level 150, the highest you can get. I named her Fiona and then took her home and we had our first little frog egg. Made some Carno eggs too that night. Then the next day I decided to go look for a dung beetle. They turn poop into fertilizer for the garden, which will make it a lot easier to keep my plants alive. But they're found in caves, which isn't exactly the safest place. I stuck down my sleeping bags anyway though and headed inside. Took out a couple of snakes first and then was really careful with this Arthropleura. They're weak to firearms, but if they hit you with their spit, they'll break your armor. I looked all over for a dung beetle, but instead all I managed to find was rabies. Grabbed this artifact before I left too, and this green loot drop. Fiona saddle, what I always wanted. Back at base, my frog egg was ready to hatch, so I went back to the beach and threw it out in what I thought was water. Yeah, I think I killed it. Well, back to looking for a dung beetle. I tried a different cave this time, but it was really just more of the same. One crappy green loot drop and a bunch of creepy crawly things. No. Die. Yay, cloth pants. I got another artifact, but still no dung beetle. Guess that'll just have to wait. I need to do some more building back at base. I was pretty convinced that my Carno had been able to attack Bob through my walls, so I built this sort of cage around my base to keep them in. I'm not sure how good it'll be for PvP, but at least it was helpful that night when I accidentally whistled follow all. For once, I was actually thankful to not have too many dinos. To keep things interesting, we're only allowed to use 10 at a time to defend our base anyway, and some of the others have been hard at work on theirs. Tried again for another frog egg after that. I'll have to be more careful with this one. At this point, we were trying to decide on some unique ways to face the bosses, and I'd been having so much fun hopping around on my frog Freddy that I started to wonder if I could build a frog army to fight one. So I tamed this frog and named her Felicia, then introduced her to Freddy too. And now I'll need more honey for my nanny if I want to raise these guys. Looks like the beehive I'd been using is gone though. I should probably just suck it up and do this the right way anyway. So I made myself some bug repellent and set out to tame a bee. I thought maybe I could just break the hive with my pike, but that didn't work out. Never mind, we're gonna go tame a bear first. In this game, they make you immune to bee stings while you're riding it. I'll use it to break the hive and bring the queen out. That wasn't as easy as I had hoped either though. My first bear got ate by a Carno. I accidentally killed the second one. Then, third time's the charm, but it took all night to tame. Come on, Diane, we're gonna go get us a bee. She tore through the hive with no problem, but trying to feed the queen while she was farting out little worker bees was another story. She accepted my rare flower eventually. Now that I've got a good source of honey to run my nanny, I hatched several more Carno eggs and then finally my first frog. Or tadpole, I guess. Looks like they'll have to be raised in the water, so I spent the rest of that day building them a little pen. Nothing special really, just a couple walls and gates on either side of this rock. Then I stuck my nanny on this rock where it could reach my main base and the frogs. And now all the babies just need some meat to eat. After a quick metal run the next morning, it was back to looking for a dung beetle. This time, I took this nice red saber-tooth Dread had given me. I named her Ruby, and I found what I was looking for as soon as I went in the cave.
It's a dung beetle. Yeah.
I fed it a bit of poop, of course, and some meat, and it wasn't long we were on our way. I carried it all the way home with Ruby protecting us. It was frustratingly slow, but eventually we made it back. And then, you know what I learned? I could have held it while riding my saber-tooth the whole time. I took it up to my base and gave it some poop to make me some fertilizer, then made a quick trip to the Redwoods Mountain for some crystal. It's about time I get out of the Stone Age and upgrade my base a bit. Now that's better. Made more frog babies next, then spent the night building this platform to move my garden onto. Also, my beetle kept trying to escape and I need a better place to keep it. As I was finishing up, Captain Fat Dog stopped by to say hi. Hello. He asked what I might trade for a frog, and I told him the main thing I needed was metal. Turns out he was working on the perfect solution to that. This magical masterpiece allows you to go down the slide even when you're encumbered. So he gave me a parachute and a massive stack of 5,000 metal, thanks to our stacking mod, and then sent me on my way. And I would have made it all the way back if it wasn't for this darn tree. He ended up giving me this little baby pteranodon too, and I gave him a couple of my tadpoles.
Frog.
Finished up the rest of the new garden the next morning. You stay in there, dung beetle. Spent the rest of my day hanging with the frogs, hatched a couple more, and then made some more eggs with the ones that were grown up. Then spent the whole night improving their frog pen. It wasn't much, but rails and pillars make everything look better, right? Headed out the next day to trade a frog to Bob. His dimorphs might have made me just a little bit nervous. But I got this shiny new pick out of the deal and headed home. Bye, Felicia. Have fun with Bob. Made another meat run that night. You'd be amazed how much these little tadpoles eat. On day 51, I realized I had made the mistake of not feeding my beehive. And it died. So I spent the day out searching for rare flowers, and then decided to try a different method to get a bee. I couldn't get to this one with my bear, so I tried to use my Dimorphodon to attack it. It was a bit tricky to get the whistle right, but eventually it was mine. Hopefully, I can keep this one alive. I spent most of day 52 touching up some extra things around the base. Okay. Tamed this moss chops that was moping around my backyard. Hatched more frog eggs, and looks like the tadpoles have eaten all the meat again. Started the next morning out with a bit of gardening, then built a little more before turning my frog pen into a bit of a shop. Bred even more frogs for my frog army that night, and for some reason my nanny was laying down on the job. On day 54, I spotted Kaya heading off in the distance on her raft, then finally got around to building this soul terminal that can store your dinos, and hatched a few pteranodon eggs. Baby 2, baby 3. Dropped by ASG's that night to trade more frogs, but his dinos were not very well behaved.
Oh, your dinos are attacking me.
I'm running.
I am so sorry.
Eventually, he got them all to settle down, and the next morning I was on my way with 2 less tadpoles and a new set of armor. I was starting to notice everyone else had way better blueprints than I did, so I decided to spend the next 2 days out looting drops. I'm not gonna lie, I think the best thing I found was probably the rare flowers in these beaver dams. More frogs! And I spent most of day 57 in this bear trap. Looks like Kaya's been up to some mischief, so I went over to her place that night for revenge. Did a bit of painting and left a couple bear traps of my own, before heading back home. After that, I named one of the frogs I'd raised Potato, cause, well, he sort of looks like a potato. And then we headed off to the swamp. In Ark, you can combine the best stats from creatures through breeding, so I was on the lookout for another high-level frog. I'd upgraded to a long neck rifle and trank darts now, so knocking it out was easy as pie. Stopped by Kaya's for a bit to see what she thought of my painting, and ended up borrowing this amazing flak helmet blueprint from Captain Fat Dog. I dropped it back off at his base later that day, and then headed out to look for more blueprints of my own. Fought this Rex for one loot crate, but by the time I killed him, it was too late. On day 59, we all spent some time over at Krabby's new swimming pool. But this wasn't your normal pool party. Raz Clark had a plan for us all to do some skydiving. All aboard the Sky Bus. The game was simple, just land in the pool safely to move on to the next round. Only problem is, I can't even see the pool from here. First round, my aim was perfect, but the second round, it was not. The final round was Raz and Miss Vatums, and as they fell, we decided to try and make another game out of trying to shoot them.
Here they come. Here they come.
Oh, it's shot damage.
Well, that was fun, but you know what? I let my beehive die again. So I spent the next day out with Krabby and Dread on bears trying to tame some more. Oh,
Is this
it's done.
one of
Don't
those-
attack the queen. You killed the queen. Didn't you?
Yeah. I got a bit excited.
Yeah, there it is. It's right in front of you.
Come here. Come here, Miss B. Hello. Hello. Yep. I got her.
Yay! Nice.
Nice.
All right. Hatched even more frogs that night, and then bumped into Bob and Miss Vatums the next morning while I was out on potato.
Synchronized dance swimming.
Ended up going out with them to help tame this shark, and was no help at all, really, when Bob got attacked by these jellyfish.
Oh god, help!
Um,
I'm dying.
I did babysit his shark for him, though, while I waited for him to come back. Tussled with this alpha shark on my way back home. Potato is surprisingly tough. The next day was a very interesting one. I woke up to find this infected dodo at my door.
No. Wait a minute.
Well, that's new. Don't remember leaving that there. I shot it and then went out the back way, deciding I'd just try to eat it with my pteranodon.
Oh no.
It ate it just fine, but looks like I've got swamp fever anyway. I gave it to this dodo of mine too, and then stuck him on the stairs. Who knows, it might come in handy later. Then spent the rest of my morning making an antidote. Well, now that that's sorted out, I can go try to tame my favorite creature. The Thylacolea? Well, I don't know how you pronounce it. I just call it a Thyla. I searched all night to find a decent level one and ended up settling for this 125. I made a trap and then got its attention, but it wasn't interested for long and just tried to run off into the forest. Wait, come back. I just want to be friends. Eventually, I got it to chase me right into the trap, and a few darts later, I knocked it out. While I waited for it to tame, I ran into Cap, who showed me up with a much better trap.
This probably won't work.
And he was right, it didn't the first time. But he added just one more ceiling, and like that, it was trapped. Look at it just floating there. I didn't have the right kibble or any mutton, so mine took forever to tame. Next morning, though, we made our way home and I gave it a name. Continued building my frog army next. Frog babies. Killed this Alpha Carno on this new Pteranodon I named Green Bean, and then headed off to the snow to look for an Ovis. They're really hard to find, but it'll give me the mutton I need to tame a better Thyla. Need a sheepy. I grabbed a couple drops along the way, but eventually found one the next day. Now to go tame another Thyla. Finding them was hard enough, but trying to find a high level was even harder. I ended up clearing out some of the lower levels, hoping more would spawn, and then when I finally found one, I used the trap I watched Captain Fat Dog make. It was way easier than the one I had used. Yeah. While it was taming, I went over to Bob's to drop him off an antidote.
Airdrop.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Guess I wasn't the only one that got a swamp dodo. I made it back just in time to keep my Thyla from waking up too early, then took it home before heading out to tame another that night. This one wasn't the highest level, but it's a female, which means now I'll be able to make some Thyla babies. I named one Butter and the other Jelly. then headed back to the snow for another sheep. While I was there, I figured I could grab some metal, but for that I need an Anki. So I knocked out this level 185 before trading it for this 140. It's beautiful. And now it's time to gather all the metal. Then down the slide we go, all the way back home. Took Betty the beaver out to gather some wood to smelt it, until she fell off the cliff. Oops.
No, Betty.
I didn't have a saddle yet for her, and I didn't feel like walking her back up, so I popped over to Miss Vadams to trade a Thyla baby for a beaver saddle. That's better. Took Jelly out that night on a meat run, but my daughter took the controls for a bit before I was done.
There's a sharky in the water. Jump. Jump. Jump.
Then I made the mistake of attacking this Bronto too close to my water pipes. That was not very nice, Mr. Bronto. And would you looky there, it's time for another event again. Maybe I'll actually win some crowns this time. Krevitron challenged us all to go tame the most useless dino we could find. So I brought back this Pachyrhinosaurus. Pretty much all the creatures in Ark have some sort of special ability, but I can't tell you the last time I tamed one of these guys. We all had to do a bit of a presentation explaining how useless they were, and then fight them to the death. Turns out mine was so useless it was the first one to die. No crowns for me, but that's okay. I think I'll spend tomorrow doing one of my favorite things. It's time to build some more. Compared to everyone else's walls, my wooden gates were just looking sad. So I think it's time to fix that. First, I flew around and had a look at some of the other bases. I started by building this little frame of stone foundations with a much bigger dinosaur gate. Then built this wall of stone and inside-out wood to make it pretty. Added some pillars too, of course, and spent the next day on some finishing touches. I was pretty happy with it in the end, though I think I might have miscounted on one side and made it uneven. Shh, no one will know if we don't tell them. Stopped by Bob's to give him one of my baby Thyla. He showed me this nice painting someone had left for him, but then his Dimorphodon tried to eat me.
Uh-oh.
And then early the next day, I headed over to meet up with Bay. He had challenged me for a crown to do an artifact race.
3, 2, 1, go.
With nothing but a parachute, of course. Cannonball.
Look, she's already gone. Okay. Pinned by a scorpion.
I hope it eats you. First one back out with the artifact gets a crown from the loser.
Mr. Josh.
I saw you fall.
I'm in last place, but I made it.
Yay.
He ended up getting the artifact first and won, but at least it was a lot of fun.
We did it.
We did
Together.
it. Woo. Day 74 was a long one. I hatched some more tadpoles, then set out some baby Thylas that the Dino Storage mod had picked up. Went to get some crystal after that, without a pick. Guess I'll have to go back. On my way home, though, I ran into this 145 baryonyx I couldn't pass up. Yep, I'm taking you home. I knocked it out and fed it some fish to make it my friend before continuing back to base to get my pick. Now I can get the crystal. Things got a little interesting when the server went down that night. Somehow I knew something wasn't right.
Yeah, there
Then
you go.
Dredd dropped by later that night to let me borrow his Thyla for a while to see if we could combine their stats. On day 75, I invited him and Miss Vadams to join me for a cave on frogs. I gave them each a frog and then named this one French Fry for myself, and off we went. I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what I was doing and probably wasn't the most prepared. But normally, I'm the only one who has to deal with it when it all goes wrong. Well, not this time.
Oh, I got rabies.
Rabies again.
I died.
Oh?
Allies, making them learn survival.
Boy. Oh boy.
Oh, no, there's so many piranha. Let me out.
Oh.
No! We had a lot of fun anyway, though, and eventually made it to the artifact. I spent most of day 76 gathering metal. I managed to get some great weapons through trading, but I still needed to make some ammo. Made it back to base almost perfect this time. Almost. Then it was back to hatching more frogs that night. I had plenty for an army to take on the boss now, but you can get mutations on stats and colors sometimes, so I figured I'd hatch as many as I could. I woke up to find another dodo at my door the next day, so I made myself an antidote and dropped it off over on Raz's roof. Delivery. Hunted for hide for saddles after that, and then dropped off Dredd's Thyla before calling it a day. Had some fun on day 78 and met up with Krabby for a little race. She'd been trying to do this underwater cave run with nothing but this funky little creature called a Diplodocus. It's fast and allows you to breathe underwater, but provides very little protection. Oh, is that you? Oh, I'm here. I managed to follow her all the way to the artifact. My luck ran out, though, on the way back.
Oh, I'm dead. I'm done.
She managed to make it out with her artifact and gave me a few of her extra critters so I could try it again another time. But not today. That's enough of that place. I spent the rest of my night in the snow gathering silica pearls and polymer from penguins. Then stopped at the mountain for some more metal and crystal where I ran into Vino. He was testing out a new addition that Cap had made to the slide, and I'm glad he went first because I wasn't exactly sure how it worked.
Oh my god!
And this time I did make it back perfect. Landed right in my yard.
Yeah.
While I was chatting with Vino, I discovered he had an ascendant frog saddle. So I took over one of my good Thylas that night to trade. Thank you, sir. I'll just be on my way. The whole server met up the next day to run this place they called the Hard Snow Cave. I'd never been here before, but I'm starting to think the hardest thing might be not shooting each other by mistake.
On your right, Palovia! Run, run!
Oh, I see it.
Oh, I see it! Oh my god! Oh! You know, we're lucky.
Oh my
god! Yeah.
Oh no, I missed!
Whoa!
Oh no!
What if I
To your right.
Got you, Bob.
Okay.
Come on.
Thank you.
Up he goes.
Thank you.
Come on!
Oh,
There we go.
Oh.
Hiya.
Oh yeah.
Not had a go of being the bait yet.
Oh, there we go!
Oh, there's another one!
Oh, no!
Yay, she's back.
Yeah, you guys, you guys.
Yeah, lay down, people.
You can see my head.
Think she's dead?
Oh my god.
Later.
Whoa, whoa,
Who's
whoa,
ever
whoa.
said that?
Oh, so low!
No, I didn't mean to!
I thought that was a death pit.
Me too!
I thought.
I was
Yeah.
terrified. Okay.
Lol.
Just need new pants now.
Things got back to normal on day 81. I collected some oil on my frog french fry and made myself this industrial grinder. Now I can destroy all the junk I've picked up in drops for their resources. I also used it to grind up this stone into flint so I could make more spark powder to make more gunpowder to make more ammo. Day 82, I got this really pretty red Thyla mutation, stuck a couple frogs inside my base for extra crown defense, then spent the day gathering fiber and hide to make myself that fancy frog saddle Vino gave me. It didn't help much when this Microraptor attacked me, but it sure did with this Alpha Carno. Back at base, I spotted Kaya's eels running amok. She wasn't online, but it turns out someone else was. I went AFK for a minute, and when I came back, I didn't know it yet, but someone was sneaking around my base. I continued about my base, absolutely clueless, until I saw this crown notification. Uh-oh, better run inside and get some gear. Or not. I was stuck in a bear trap, and next thing I knew, Raz Clark was coming in to carry away my dinos.
Sorry, Solo. I had to give it a go.
While he was at it, he accidentally grabbed me too, though.
Oh no. I picked you.
Yeah, thanks.
All I had was trank darts, so I shot his quets with that. I thought I might be free when he dropped me, but looks like I'm still trapped. I had put ceilings over my Carno cage, so he couldn't carry those away at least. Unfortunately though, they couldn't actually attack through the walls. But between them and the hole at my door, it did make it a lot more difficult for him to get inside.
I can't get through the door.
Which gave me some time to get free and sneak around the back.
Oh no. I heard the door.
I hopped on my frog and came around the corner just as he broke my second door.
Oh no. What a time.
We licked him back. He got me with his shotgun, though. But that's okay. Next, he got ate by a potato. He could have easily come back with more gear and dinos and took my crowns, but thankfully, he just came back for his gear.
Thank you very much.
I'm not that big into PvP, so I think he took it easy on me. It was all good fun, though, and he went on his way. And then I saw Captain Fat Dog had put on his crown. I think he might be taking this opportunity to raid Raz right back. I was going to go watch, but then I ran into another bear trap. Guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. I tore down the walls and put a thyla in my base that night. Hatched some more frogs, of course, too, and then spent the rest of my day out gathering oil and hide. I gifted Dread the red thyla and realized I'd gotten a light blue one, too. It was so light I hadn't even noticed it when I'd set it out to raise. I named him Puff and then headed off with him to our next event. Jousting. We tested out the lances with a bit of goofing off first.
Did that work?
Yep, they worked just fine.
All must throw in 1 crown of each from your kingdoms. 2, 1, joust!
Avanti!
She counts it in. Very strong.
I watched the first round from this boat, and then it was my turn. We missed the first go,
He's running in.
but the second go I went for a swim. Oh no! Guess that means Bob and his monkey win. I might have missed the next round as I got distracted when my thyla did this. Though it looks like I'm not the only one having a bit of a glitch.
Oh my gosh, the terror!
In the end, it was a 3-way tie between Bob, Cap, and Krabby to split the pot of crabs.
Yay!
I spent most of my next day gathering pearls and polymers to make this chemistry bench. It makes things you'd make in the mortar and pestle, like gunpowder, a lot faster and more efficiently. And with the boss fights coming up soon, I'm gonna be needing all of it I can get to make ammo. And metal. Lots of metal. I spent day 86 out getting all the hide I could find. Ran into Raz Clark that night, and he told me about his plan to raid Vino next using this crazy-looking Bronto, before heading home to make even more gunpowder. Built myself this big industrial forge the next morning. Then I was low on cementing paste, so I decided to take my frog to another swamp cave. This particular cave is full of poisonous gas, though. I headed off on my frog french fry and found it just after these ruins in the redwoods. I put down some sleeping bags and we hopped our way in. Hello, Bug Buffet. My frog was absolutely shredding through all the Meganura, but it was a different story with this Arthropleura. They're weak to weapons, so I tried to shoot them before they could shoot me. This one got me anyway, though, and broke my first mask. Well, that was fast. I put on another mask and continued in further to grab a couple drops, but it wasn't long before they broke my second mask, too. Problem is, it was also my last.
Oh, no.
I thought I might make it out in time, but without a mask, I died really fast.
Sorry, French bro.
And then when I tried to run back in for my gear, it became clear very fast that that wasn't going to happen. I hate to admit how long it took me to get my stuff back after that, but it took a whole nother day, 1 set of scuba gear, a few gas masks,
Any regrets? What was I thinking?
and a dead frog to get back to French fries. Sorry, Blue Potato, you served us well. After all that, I was tired and frustrated, but pushed on with potato and French fry anyway to eventually get to the artifact.
We did it. And I'm getting out of here. That's enough of this place. Thank you.
And that's enough of that. I'm going home now. I didn't go anywhere the next day, just stayed at home raising these thyla babies and gathering stuff for my frog saddles for the boss fight.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
And then Survival Bob stopped by that night.
Hello.
He knew I was raising thylas and had brought me one in my favorite color, cyan. The next morning, we ran around for a bit, getting things ready for the boss fights coming up. All of us will be teaming up together to take them on with some very interesting dino teams. Around lunch, I crept around Raz Clark's for a bit, but I took too long and he logged off before I could make my move. After that, I spent the rest of my day leveling up 20 of my best frogs that would be going in with us to the Broodmother fight. Then Miss Vatum stopped by. She'd taken a mind wipe tonic so she could level up her crafting skill and made all 20 of the Ascendant saddles I'd been gathering resources for. Thank you, ma'am. She also let me borrow this really good club so I could get a bunch of polymer for her to make me another shotgun. Don't forget more metal too, though. At least this slide makes it a lot more fun. Nope.
Oh, that was so perfect.
When I had all the stuff, she dropped back by to make me the shotgun.
All right, enjoy.
And then I spent the night sorting through my gear to see what else I needed. Between all the different pieces of gear I'd been given or traded for, I was looking pretty good. And I'd made plenty of ammo too, so I decided to check in and see if anyone else needed any help. Turns out ASG was running low on sap to make more veggie cakes, and I had plenty of resources to make a few tree platforms and sap taps. Then Vino needed more hide for his Chally saddles, so I named my new Thyla Thyan, and we headed off to get some hide. After a while, I switched back over to Puff. He had a lot more levels in him and was a bit more tough. And then when I went to take Vino all the hide, I had a bit of trouble getting inside. Oops.
You're right there.
I might have gotten myself stuck. He helped me out of his unintentional trap. Then I dropped off the stuff in his greenhouse before heading back. The next day, I had some unfinished business to deal with. Krabby had given me some extra of these salamander-looking guys to go back and try that underwater cave run again. So I headed up the coast first thing the next morning and gave it a go. They had a bit of a contest going on for how fast you could get back out with the artifact, but I got lost, and we don't even need to talk about that.
I just don't know where I'm going.
When I eventually found my way, I did at least manage to make it out this time.
Ooh, I did it.
Bob stopped in again that evening, this time on his murder chicken. He was looking to borrow some hat skins for his special boss fight team. Then I named this beautiful Thyla Lila and spent the night out on her, killing everything. Since I've been trying to travel this season without any cryopods, I set aside the whole next day to travel to the obelisk with my frogs. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It's time for a pep talk. Can you give him a pep talk?
You're gonna do so good, Froggies. You can do it.
The plan was for everyone to set up their dinos at the different obelisks depending on which boss they were fighting, which means I'll be taking mine up to the green ob. I wasn't too worried about having to fight anything, just that I might lose one on the way. So I figured heading up the coast first and then following the river in was probably my best bet. I stopped every now and then to count them all. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. But just as I got close, I spotted this alpha glow right up ahead. Uh-oh. But look, someone's already fighting it though. There was Captain Fat Dog on his Pteranodon just pecking away at it. The frog army and I joined in, and in no time we had it licked.
Oh, there we go.
Then he ended up tagging along for the rest of my journey to Green Ob, keeping an eye on the frogs in the back and making sure they didn't get lost. I spent the next day getting everything together for the boss fight, and then waiting around while everyone else delivered their dinos and made their way over. We'll be facing all three of the island bosses not once, but twice. First on the easiest difficulty, Gamma, and then again on the hardest difficulty, Alpha, with some very unique dinos. And then, provided all goes as planned, we'll all be going down into the Tech Cave to take on the Alpha Overseer and ascend the island. Day 96, and it was finally time. I'm not gonna lie though, I was really nervous my frogs would just die.
Everyone's getting left behind.
Oh my god.
The plan was just to hop around and shoot from their back.
Move and shoot, move and shoot.
Just keep hopping, just keep hopping. And surprisingly, it was over and done in just 2 minutes flat.
We're done. Boom.
Next up, we headed off to Blue Ob to take on the Big Monkey, and we'll be using Bob's army of, well, big monkeys. They all had some very interesting hats on, but when we got into the battle, the feathers on mine made it a bit difficult to see. And it wasn't long into the fight, I accidentally shot Dread right in the head. Oops. I felt really bad, but there was nothing I could do now. I did grab all his stuff, though, after we finished off the big Megapithecus. And then Bob accidentally managed to launch himself off his monkey to a death of his
I
own.
threw myself at the wall.
Why did I do that?
After that, it was off to Red Ob to fight the Gamma Dragon. On Miss Vadam's turtles, of course. There was a lot of fire, but they did surprisingly well. Then we turned around and did it all again the next day, smashing the spider with Captain Fat Dog's Ankies, throwing rocks back at the Megapithecus with Vino's Calicotherium, and then running right through the dragon with Raz Clark's Rhinos.
No extra damage.
I am under the dragon. Hey, Bob.
You are
Hello.
part of the
Hey.
dragon.
Come this way. Follow my.
I woke up on day 98 to an interesting surprise. My base was covered in tech parasaur. Well, that's odd. I stuck down my flags from the boss fight and made some suits. Then, to help get enough element for everyone to have tech suits for the final fight, I joined in for one more battle with the big monkey that night. Ta-da! And this time, I didn't kill Dread. After that, I decided to turn the scrap metal from the parasaurs into ammo, but I think something went wrong with my Thyla. Yep, there's definitely something wrong with my Thyla. Day 99, and it was finally time to announce the crown winner. And our last day here before we ascend. We met up under the Raz Clark statue, and everyone made their tech suits first. Some final awards were given for things like Best Base.
Raz Clark!
How do I get down?
Oh, I want to thank my mom.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Thank you.
Seriously, how do I get down?
I'm stuck. Go there.
See you later, Bob.
And then Kaya announced who got first place.
Captain Fat Dog!
His first decree as new king.
Let's get rid of this statue. Go!
We all flew over to the volcano after that, where Kaya's Therizino army was waiting to enter the tech cave. This was actually my first time going through it. Last time I played the island, this wasn't even a thing yet. My main job was to not fall in the lava. It went well. Some of the others took the lead, with most of us just staring at Theri butts on the way down. Everyone made it through alive, though, and we teleported in to face the Overseer.
2, 1.
It was a crazy-looking boss with crazy-looking lasers that dismount you from your tank.
No.
Which left me running after my Theri again and again.
Stop.
It morphed into metallic versions of all the other island bosses, and we shredded through them one by one, eventually taking out the Overseer's final form. As we celebrated, it ascended us right up into space. And if you liked this story, be sure to go check out this video and join me in some other place.